Hey everybody, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics, an urban farm project. It's the morning. It's going to be super hot for the next 4 days, like 102. And, it's pretty dry here in the desert. So it's going to be a bit of a scorcher. So my prized possession is getting her vitamin D. She getting her vitamin D before it gets too hot. Okay, let me grab my shoes. So, I thought I'd do a video today. I haven't done a video in a while, and I've got squash, and these are my little harvests today. And then, and I harvested that too this morning. So I'm gonna make a zucchini bread, I think, or a stuffed zucchini, something magnificent. And so anyway, just wanted a lot of my first stage lettuce is going to seed, and I'm gonna collect those seeds here as soon as they're ready. I'm gonna leave half because I want the garden to kind of reseed itself for next year. And then my second stage lettuce is making its way. So this would be a second stage lettuce. Right there. And second stage lettuce is heading up to do some seeding. And then I still have a bunch of third stage lettuce that I'm eating. And my chard is finally starting to, I've got several kinds of chard. And my kale, not interested in seeding, so I'm going to be eating a lot of this stuff for the next few months, which is great. And my cabbages, I thought I'd kind of talk about, well, let's just see what happens. We'll talk about several different things. Now, these purple cabbages are so amazing. They're different, than the regular type cabbage. And mind you, these are heirloom. But they have these amazing capillary, kind of looking things on the produce. And back kind of in, folk medicine, native, medicine, they would have looked at plants and they would have known a lot more about the body because they would have been, hunting animals, and they would be processing all the animal parts. And so you could say that it looks like capillaries in the body. You could say it looks like some of the lung tissue. And they would have said, it would be good for a lot of those kinds of things. And science is finally starting to kind of catch up. And they're starting to realize that these are pretty accurate things. That a lot of the folk medicine would have been correct, but it would have been a visual. What would the plant be good for? The plant kind of would show you. Now, isn't that awesome? That not only did the creator create this stuff, but also gave you a picture of what it looked like and what it could help you with. I just think that's amazing. And also, cabbage, and I'm just generalizing with cabbage right now. The other thing that's really cool about cabbage is that it gets these little hard, yum-yums, the cabbage, the final product. And cabbages is super good for preventative cancer. But we could say, hypothetically, that cabbage shows us that it's good for tumors, right? Because it kind of grows into a tumor form. Anyway, I can plant seeds, but, people have to grasp it with their mind, which requires, quite a bit. And so I've harvested my broccolette seeds, so super excited about that. And just waiting for my other seeds. And look at my mugwort that I planted from the river this spring. She's doing so good. She smells so amazing. And most of my muggy did pretty good with the transplanting, and some just didn't. But I think a lot of it has to do with kind of just the soil. Like here, it's just got all of the same stuff as down there. But, it was scorched to death. I had a huge pile of thistles, several different kinds. I have a musk thistle and a bull thistle. So I transplanted them and relocated them. And these big, beautiful things are cosmos, which are beautiful. My clover is doing exceptionally spectacular that I dug up from the river. Eventually, this will be the ground cover, for this whole area, because it really protect the dirt, needs some ground cover. Plus, clover is so good for putting, beneficial things back into the soil. This guy I'm going to have to cut down. He's the elm. I used him when he was in good shape this summer to kind of protect some of the plants over here. I got my little nasturtium. Can't wait for it to flower, get big enough so I can start eating it. And yeah, so anyway, I got things rocking. These guys are, been scorched in the 4th stage of weeding. Here's my purslane patches. I found it around the yard and I thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna plant the purslane in one area because it's highly edible. It's the highest in 3, 6, 9 essential fatty acids per volume. And one of the things I love to do with this is put it in a salad on top a little bit, or make a vinegar out of it. And you just take some, chop it up, wash it, chop it up, and then put some apple cider vinegar over it and let it cure for about 2 or 3 weeks. And it makes an awesome salad vinegar. Remember, they would have used, probably pioneering, mostly Europe, would have made, I relocated a mullein because I seeded a whole bunch in one area. And my composts are settling pretty good. So I've got to start filling and feeding them, which I'll do a video on that. And then I've just been planting stuff to just see what I could get to grow, because some things just don't kind of have issues about some of the different types of, dirt around here. And I think that, there could be, who knows how many people have lived here. Okay, so we're going to talk about nitrogen. I'm super excited this year. Every year I try to do some type of continued education, whether it's an osteopath medicine, anthroposophy medicine, anthroposophy study, biodynamic farming. And this year I'm doing a program for 6 months. Just started yesterday with an amazing, brilliant man from Italy. And something that he said about nitrogen yesterday, and I was going to share that information and kind of bring it into an understanding kind of way. So that reflects a lot with the human body. So I am growing a couple little seeds of cottonwood. I'm going to dig them up and relocate them. And so this is another one of my flower beds and herb beds, and I've got some Thai basil in there. And it's going to seed. So Some seeds I'm collecting. These are my mullein starters that I had all here, but I've been transplanting them all over. And eventually it'll be like one big herb, you know, flower, food forest. Like I even have some arugula over here that I've been growing. Here's my cayenne peppers for my pain oil. Here's a shard. Hee hee hee. So yeah, collectively putting it all together, I've got some basil growing in there. It seems pretty happy with the corn. There's just an empty spot there that the voles ate that corn. And here's my corns. And they're doing pretty good, you know? Doing pretty good. And this is the kind of hard dirt they're growing in. So hard, clay. So it cracks immediately as soon as it gets warm. But yeah, corn's doing good. And tomatoes are doing fantastic. They just got scorched quite a bit. Some of them got super scorched. Same thing, it's got a clay base. But for the most part, I'm just every day harvesting quite a few tomatoes now. And here's mugwort that I transplanted. It's doing good. And I put some Thai basil here, arugula, and mullein. I mean, it's all medicinal, culinary, and flowering. Oh, and I have to show you. You know, I had transplanted a few of these from the river. This one is finally flowering, and it's like, you know, up to my boobs, but it's doing great. And my snap peas are just struggling. But anyway, I love this plant. The other ones, some of them scorched to death, didn't make it. Oh, and here's some prickly lettuce that I've allowed to grow. It's getting ready to seed. It's a pain medication. It has a latex. So, yeah. It's one that I made this year in a tincture, so yep. Pretty excited. And then I've got all my catnip. It's flowering. Calendula. So this is where I wanted to get to. Okay. So these are taller than me officially. Yeah, they're officially these are taller than me. So I kind of just wanted to talk about my mom. And I realized when these cosmos, so I thought they were cosmos. I had a big seed pack of different seeds that were all together that I just tossed out in different places, and what took and what didn't. And I thought these were cosmos, but I just didn't really know, and how crazy that they were growing. So I didn't know. I thought, well, we're going to figure it out. And then this week they started flowering, and I knew for sure they were cosmos. And then purple cosmos are linked to my childhood and my mother. And we had so much unfinished business, you know, when she passed on. And I think I've finally worked through our relationship here on my side. But I used to always tell people that my mom could grow things in sand that were taller than people. She had these zucchini plants when I was a kid in sand that were taller than adults. And I looked at these cosmos and I said, these are a product of my mom. She wanted me to know that she's here because they're growing taller than a person. And so, giving her kudos, and I appreciate that she's helping, because things, you know, have not been that great. And, you know, a lot of it kind of, you know, her fault. So these are amazing flowers. I can't wait to grab the seeds, but they're super pokey. And some of my soapwort that I transplanted from down the road is finally taking off. My thistles, transplanted thistles, are doing pretty good. This is my my comfrey, which I'm shocked she's growing. She's doing good. I planted her here by the mugwort that I brought from Reno when he was just a baby, when she was just a baby. And now look at her. Oh, my lemongrass. I love that stuff. Love to chew on my lemongrass. Anyway, here's my squashes. They are just doing so good. You can see the ones that kind of get some shade are doing a lot better. And then the ones that are just, you know, out in the hard silica, you know, Scorch Valley are just kind of slower and just, you know, have been taking a brunt. They just have taken some, yeah, here's my, ooh, my cantaloupes are doing so good. Look at that. And then here I got, you know, I've got some, lots of butternuts on this one. My squashes, acorn squashes, and the bees, they get underneath there in the flowers, and the whole plant is going. It's amazing, putting out that beautiful frequency. I wonder what bee hertz is, but yeah, they're putting it down. And then yeah, so that's what we've got. So I wanted to just throw something out there about my mom. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about nitrogen. Ooh, and here, I'm not getting paid or anything, but I really love this wheelbarrow. This thing is amazing. It's pretty hardcore, and it was cheaper than some of the other old school kind of wheelbarrows with wood. And you can turn it with one hand. It goes around 360. It fully dumps, right? I could even do it with one hand. And the other cool thing about this is I can put something heavy in it and scoop it up without a whole lot of effort, and then roll it wherever I need to. So I love you, Gorilla Cart, because you've made my life so much easier. Okay, I'm gonna get up here in the shade a little bit. Actually, you know what? Because I want to talk about this nitrogen thing. Let's have some chair time. And just working on my squashes, and I'm gonna harvest some leaves. You know, most squash leaves are edible, and they're a little bit furry, but you can ferment them, you know, make vegetable fermentations, which are pretty amazing. And you know, there is a whole lot of different nutrient in, let's see, there's a whole bunch of different, you know, trying to give you guys like a really awesome place to look at. So I'm just trying to get something going here. You could look at a squash plant. Yeah. Anyway, let me just get to look at a weed. Here, let me get closer. Anyway, you know, there's a ton more nutrient. Oh, let's stare at a pumpkin. Yeah, let's stare. Let's do that. let's stare at my pumpkin. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, let's do that. Oh. Let me see if I can get it in the picture. Okay, how about that? We'll do like a partial stare. Okay, so there's a ton more, there's different nutrients in the leaves of the squash plant than the actual squash growing. So there's a lot more chlorophyll, type of vitamins from the sunlight in the leaves that are in the squash. So you can juice the leaves. You can use them as roll-ups to roll food into, or like a little taco lettuce. And like I said, they are kind of a little prickly. But if you cook them in a soup or you ferment them, they're going to soften up. And then they're going to be magnificent. So, yeah. So it's awesome. And I just got a whole bunch of new starter stuff, probiotic gut starter stuff from Cultures for Health. So big shout out to them. One of my favorite places to buy great stuff. I also really love the Kefir Lady. She's also online. And yeah. So let's talk about this nitrogen thing. So we use a lot of bad chemical nitrogen on pretty much all of our food. All of the food that's produced pretty much in the United States. We also use some of these harsh, nitrogen fertilizers on golf courses. People don't realize that golf courses are some of the most toxic places, and they usually put them by water, like oceans, rivers, blah 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 blah. And they pollute environments like long term. And the stuff runs off into the waterways, and it ends up, like in public drinking water, and can cause a lot of, or kidney problems. Liver too, I suspect, but kidney directly. So one of the things that my teacher was talking about yesterday was that, we know for a fact that plants that are given, false fertilizer, false nitrogen in particular, require 80% more water as they're growing than plants grown organically. Now, oh, the bees are coming over here. Now, what does that translate, into our bodies? How can we figure out what's happening to our bodies? Well, because we're drinking the public water, and there's a lot of these nitrogens, false fertilizer nitrogens. A lot of the GMO grow food with the fertilizer and pesticide within the plant, and so that gets released into the soil, into the water systems. And so because we're eating the food that has like the false nitrogen, we would need to drink a heavier amount of water. We would see, even, I have people all the time where I'm like, I can tell by pressing on your skin and feeling your tissues that, you're dehydrated. And they're like, I'm drinking almost a gallon of water a day, purified water, cleaned up water, from the water store, or like reverse osmosis. And they're totally dehydrated. Well, it's because everything they're eating has this false nitrogen in it. Also, the water they're bathing in. So you could see how this could affect kidney health across the board, and how you could keep drinking water, but you just never, there's never like enough water. And then, you start to have severe kidney damage. So if we're looking at the bad nitrogens, and that the plants that are being grown with the bad nitrogens do require 80% more water than organic plants, then we have to translate what happens to that water from that plant or environment that gets run off into the waterways and then gets picked up into the public water. Also animal health, cattle and stuff that we may be feeding from the waterways. The cattle also are, if we are bad fertilizing, pasture areas or alfalfa, then they're not getting enough water. And cows need, with organic matter, food, they need 40 gallons of fresh water a day on top of, like what they're eating. So they're not getting enough water. And then, they go on to have kidney problems. And most of the time, cows are slaughtered right before, they're dying, because they have so many health problems because of their diet and the way that they're raised and everything else. And this hides the fact of how ill they are. So then, we go on to eat that meat that is fake high nitrogen. And then also by us drinking the public water or bottled water, it's all public water, we're also getting, fake high nitrogen levels into our system. So we can follow the practices of agriculture, and it branches and stems out into all directions. And this is a biodynamic 6-month, course that I'm taking with this brilliant Italian man who, most of biodynamic farming is about homeopathic remedies. How do we create homeopathic remedies to remedy a lot of problems? And so also part of it, the lectures are, about GMO, industrial, farming, and the food, and all of this other stuff. I think a lot about a lot of my clients that have super huge amounts of water retention, that is compounded not by all these nitrates in the environment, but also the food that they're eating, but also, the fake nitrogen fertilizers, but also is compounded by the MSG, the sulfates, and the nitrates, and a lot of preservatives. So a lot of people in America have huge amounts of edema and massive amounts of fluid retention. And when I'm checking people, for the most part, people think that they're fat, unless it's pretty hard. It's probably not all fat. And in most cases, it's 65 to 70% water, fluid, that is not being, peed out of the body, because the kidneys are not in very good shape to deal with things like the fake, poisonous nitrogen fertilizers. And you see, like, all of these, nowadays they have dialysis for kidneys, to keep people alive everywhere. They have them on cruise ships, at resorts. It shocks me, because it's a public epidemic. in the United States, and it goes back to the bad nitrogen fertilizers that get released into the environment that are in the food, and that, we end up uptaking through water. And we're 98% water. So you have to look at what that does to our waterways. And also, what would that fake nitrogen be doing? It would almost be like a growth hormone in the human body to plants, because what it's doing is it's forcing the top part to grow. And a lot of times you won't get a lot of fruit. It's kind of, sometimes you can get fruit from heavily nitrogen plants, but mostly it would just force growth and tons of flowering. So hormonally, it could push you into, endocrine type cancers, prostate, breast, thyroid, where it would be in your body forcing a process to happen over and over and over again. When, say, you have a process, but it has to go through, 6 phases, right? That's normal. But then you have, nitrogen, fake nitrogen that's entering your system through the waterways, and it's over accelerating certain processes of your endocrine system. Like, say, for example, women having periods, it could produce estrogen production, but then not allow your body to actually go into the other phases of the hormone production, which could cause, bleeding at the wrong times, or infertility, because your body is not going into the proper, phases of hormone processes. So it's a lot to think about, that, it's the food. And we really need to kind of stop the crazy, fake fertilizer and pesticide usage. It's just so off the rails. But one of the things, because, this is a biodynamic class, one of the things that we talk a lot about is how also not only how the plants are growing, industrial farming versus organic farming, biodynamic farming, making homeopathic remedies for soil management and restoration. But we also talk about the spiritual implications. I mean, I think with this, V word thing, people learned that Steiner said that there would be these, V words that would be coming out that would make people soulless. And he was, killed by the Dark Brotherhood in 1929 or 24 by poisoning. And so we were talking about, the fake nitrogen. And the number one complication of that would be that the food that has it in it would bypass the spirit. So it would not be food for the spirit or the soul. And it would, you want your food to assist, all aspects of you, which is ether and astral and all of these different components, not just physical. And with the fake, nitrogen, what happens is that the food cannot aid the spirit or the soul or the astral, which means that the high fake nitrogen keeps us from having consciousness and being, spiritually connected to our spirit, number one, and to the different planes of existence. Yeah, let that sink in. Yep, let that sink in for a minute or two or three. It makes us, 100% earthbound, stuck in our small reality with blinders on and not being able to access, other worlds or other realities or heaven or our Creator. All right, that's what I've got for you today. And I know I've got lots of different videos. I'm going to do a compost feeding video soon and do that. But isn't that a lovely, lovely? Okay, so butt shot of my pumpkin. So we're leaving you with a moon, a nudie butt shot of my pumpkin. Butts up, everybody. Talk to you later.